Right friends, welcome back to 4th capsule. This is about protectionism and emerging market economies. Don't ask me what is meant by protectionism or nationalism or anti-globalism. We discussed during the last week about protectionist policies, and now I am going to discuss about how does it affect emerging market economies when the advanced economies follow protectionist policies to protect their investments, to protect their jobs, to protect their manufacturing. Then how is it going to affect the emerging market economies? Emerging market economies, broadly you can say developing countries. And before going ahead, how it is going to affect emerging market economies, let us look at some salient points. That is, it is clearly evident that more and more advanced countries are resorting to protectionist policies. One classic example of 2016 is the Brexit. Brexit happened because majority of the population voted in favor of protectionism. Donald Trump elected because of the majority states in America felt that protectionist policies are needed. And at the same time, Marine Le Pen, National Front leader in France, is coming to the forefront because of protectionist or nationalistic ideals. Then when the protectionist policies are adopted by the developed countries, how the emerging market economies or developing countries are going to be affected and how far they are vulnerable, these we are going to discuss, right? Here please look at various macroeconomics. When you are looking at any country, these are very important. One is the GDP growth, then credit growth in the economic system, then inflation, current account deficit, and the next four are capital flows. Capital flows is dependent on the policies adopted by advanced economies. Then corporate sector leverage. Corporates have kept high debt equity ratio in their respective countries, and this may not be directly linked with advanced economies policies, but I included it because this is going to be the another area where emerging markets are going to be affected in the near future. External debt, then servicing of external debt, repayment of external debt. Servicing means repayment of external debt, and how these are going to be affected in the near future. If you look at emerging market economies, that is the topic. First one is capital flight. What is the meaning of capital flight? That is, money will go out of stock markets of emerging economies. That is capital flight. Please look into this slide. This is foreign portfolio investment. Foreign portfolio investment is basically investment from foreign land onto our stock markets, subject to certain limitations. And it may go anytime. When the environment is favorable for them in their respective resident countries, then capital flight takes place. But the other one is foreign direct investment. It is not that volatile. Sometimes you may have less foreign direct investment flows, but whatever came to the country, it is not easy for them to escape. So FPI is more vulnerable and FDI is more stable, that we have learned several times. And now, because of the policies of advanced countries, there is every possibility that capital flight may take place. And because of capital flight, asset prices in emerging market are likely to collapse. And if you look at the past 20 years, 2015 was the worst year as far as capital outflows from emerging markets are concerned. And India is no exception. During the past few months, these foreign portfolio investors are withdrawing their money from Indian stock markets. But India is not that affected because our macroeconomics are quite strong as on date. In comparison to 3-4 years ago, we have sufficient foreign exchange reserves around $360 or $370 billion. Right, and some of the emerging market economies may be affected because of capital flight. Right, India may not be affected much, but some countries may be affected. Look at the second one, high corporate leverage. This is not much to do with the external sector. Why I included this is when external vulnerabilities are more, this issue of high corporate leverage will be compounded. What is the meaning of high corporate leverage? Here the corporates in emerging markets have borrowed huge money. Their debt equity ratio is very high. If they have 100 crores of their own money, they have borrowed 1000 crores. Then debt equity ratio is 10. So, depending on more borrowed money in recent times, borrowing in emerging market economies increased like anything. The corporate debt in 2004 was just $4 trillion. And mid of 2016, it increased to $21 trillion. In 12 years, corporate debt increased 5 times. That shows how the corporates are vulnerable in emerging market economies, right? And out of this total corporate debt, banking sector is going to be worst affected because almost 70 to 80% of this outstanding corporate debt is in bank loans. That is the main worry for the international banking system as a whole. This is the second point. Third point is external corporate debt, right? Emerging market economies like South Africa, Brazil, Chile, Russia, Indonesia borrowed heavily from global markets. They issued foreign currency bonds and they borrowed heavily. And here another interesting aspect is this foreign currency bonds issuance increased phenomenally after 2009. That is one part. And another interesting aspect is corporates in non-tradable sector borrowed more. What is meant by tradable sector? Tradable sector means the corporates, whoever are in export-import business. When corporates are in export-import business, when they have borrowed in foreign currency, they may not be affected much. But when the corporates, whoever are in non-tradable sector, borrowed from foreign markets, then they will be affected much. Their vulnerability will be much because of the reason when domestic currencies are depreciating and at the same time when hedging is not there, then the debt burden will increase on the emerging markets. Nowadays, dollar is strengthening. Because of strengthening of dollar, what happens? The debt burden on the emerging market economies increases because of the depreciation of currencies. Then the last one is the servicing of external debt. This is another problem because most of these loans are linked with flexible interest rates. Nowadays, USA is increasing the interest rates. When USA is increasing the interest rates, then what will happen? Yield on bonds will increase in USA. When yield on bonds increases, then interest rate structure will increase. When interest rate structure increases, then LIBOR will increase. London interbank offered rate will increase. When London interbank offered rate increases, our servicing of debt will increase. The interest burden will increase. So that is the reason how emerging market economies are vulnerable. And the parting word is India is better placed as far as external vulnerabilities are concerned. But however, high corporate leverage with high debt equity ratios is one problem in our country, and it continues to be a problem, especially in sectors like infrastructure, iron, steel, etc. And our external front, if you look at external front, we are quite satisfactory. Our position is quite satisfactory because of huge foreign exchange reserves as well as not much current account deficit, and balance of payments position is also satisfactory. Because of all these reasons, we are safe, but some of the emerging market economies have got many vulnerabilities because of the protectionist policies of the advanced economies. Right friends, with this let us conclude 4th capsule. Please do join for other capsules. Have a nice day. Thank you.